Yo, what up, what up, what up? I hope everybody is having a great start to their Monday. Today, I wanted to, I was kind of going back and forth with what I wanted to talk about today um, because as we get ready to step into the new year, the time changes, all those different types of things. I wanted to make sure that you guys are thinking through um, the progress and forward thinking. Of course, we had some conversations and people feeling a way about the election. Is not a political channel, so don't expect me to talk about the political climate. Right? I'm not well versed enough to speak on that, so I'm not going to speak on it. But if you're looking for a deeper dive on style and your personal development through personal style, then you're in the right place. Um, I was thinking about talking about virality, right? Like, and how we think about being viral and everybody wanting to go viral and the importance of really understanding what that means. But we'll say that for another conversation. I wanted to have a conversation more appropriately about how you're lying with your look. So some of you guys are lying with your look. And what do I mean by that? Well, anytime I'm working with any of my clients, my goal is um, you are in the space where you are trying to tell a story, right? But that story is inauthentic, that story is incongruent, that story is not providing a true reflection of who you are. I just saw somebody say, please tell us who in the country you hate. I mean, who you voted for. Right. We're not having that conversation. We're not having those conversations here. Um, but it did make me think about like how we lie with our looks. And we do that in life because we promote one thing, and then in truth we believe something else, or we have a different perspective on something. And a lot of us, we lie for a reason, which we're going to talk about why we lie with our look. We also end up having some consequences that come into play in that space. And then also, on an even broader scale, we find ourselves then trying to navigate that consequence, right? So there is our thoughts, and if you've been rocking with me for a little while, you know we're going to talk about your thoughts and how that looks when you are putting a look or putting your ensemble together, and then ultimately what that says about you and why lying with your look can be so costly. So what I've been doing recently, just to kind of let you know how my mind has been working, I have become curiously obsessed with the philosophy and psychology of style, especially for men, and what that means for how we show up in life, right? If you've been rocking with me, you remember that every man has a story. That story soon becomes history, or his story, right? If he's choosing author, and it all begins with our statement of style. We know that a picture's worth a thousand words, so we have to ask ourselves what we're saying with our images, with our pictures, what we're saying to ourselves, and what we're saying to others, and are we lying when we're putting those pictures or those images up? And I think a lot of us actually are, you know. And the reason why I know this is because I see it all the time. When I first got back to Atlanta, I remember like being excited to be back down south, to be in a space where, Southern hospitality, folks wanted to dress up, so I thought. And this is still in the era where people were dressing up like they were going to business meetings to go to the club. Y'all remember that, when folks used to come up with a tie that didn't fit, was too big for the collar. uh Fellas had on the tie shirt, no jacket, pants, and you had to wear hard bottoms to get into the club, even though we were going to be sweating. The collar on our white shirts was going to be just nasty, right? Because we were swag surfing, knucking if you bucking in our business casual attire. And so I remember coming back to Atlanta, and seeing this, and this is around the time that Suit Supply first opened up in Atlanta. Now, some of you guys may or may not know, but Suit Supply uh, originated over in Europe, but when it first came to the US, it started in New York. So for it to go to a different space or a different city about 15 years ago was a big deal, right? It was saying something if it was coming to your city, to to your city. Freudian slip there, right? Um, because that meant on some level you had some style or some fashion coming with you, right? And so I remember there was a lot of young guys who were fly, fashionable, that were starting to work at Suit Supply. And so me wanting to be around some guys who had some style about them or perspective, all those other different types of things, I frequented Suit Supply just to see who was over there, engage with some of the fellas. And I remember seeing well dressed dude, typical Suit Supply fashion, the shrunken pants, so the cuff and the hem were above the ankle, no socks, loafers, white spread collar dress shirt, skinny tie, and a pinstripe chalk stripe jacket, right? And so I see these cats out pretty frequently, and they were always suited. I'll see them at the shop. They were pretty frequently always suited, always suit and tie. And I remember stepping out, and we were going to like this art show, or I don't remember what the specifics were, but I see this cat out again, and he's in like fitted or like snapback. I think was the thing he has on, the shorts, tank top, very streetwear driven. And I remember feeling like a little disappointed. And he was like, "Yo, bro, I'm out here hanging out, like, gotta dress, for the space." And I remember being like, "Yeah, but you didn't. You didn't. You could have shown up in the cool space that would have really separated you and made you look like that dude, like that ninja, right? Like because of how you showed up." And if he would have thrown on a chambray shirt, rolled up the sleeves, at the time, this is when Suit Spa was doing some edgy stuff. So I think they had a camo taper trouser with the cargo short pocket. I mean, the cargo pocket on the side, that you could throw on with a pair of sneakers because Suit Spa was making the sneakers at that time and could have been very elevated and edgy and still stylistic but sartorial in that space. And so I felt like to a certain degree he was lying with his look because his mannerisms changed. Everything about how he moved changed. He kind of had the bop, which was hilarious because nobody really walks like that, right? But he kind of had the bop. He was like, "Yo, son, da da da." He's not from New York. I think this cat was from Alabama, right? So it was like all of these incongruencies and inconsistencies that were like, "Oh, you are afraid to be your own man." And so I realized that that's not an age thing. He was a young guy. I've seen older guys do it. I've seen guys who I thought were genuine and authentic be disingenuous because of situations and systems that they're in. And I'm not gonna lie, it's made me a little skeptical about homies a lot of times. Like, there's a lot of homies who will say, or people that I'm acquainted with that will say, like, "Oh yeah, that's my man. We friends." And I'm like, now, nah, we're cool. We're acquainted. Like, I know who that person is, but we're not friends. Because you don't want that job. And they'll be like, "What you mean I don't want that job?" I'm like, friendship is work, it's intention, it's authenticity, it's honesty, it's truth, right? And a lot of people lie when they say that. It looks cool. It looks cool to be down with the homie who is stylish. It looks cool and it seems cool to be down with the person who's an influencer, but like, are you lying with the look? Are you lying in life for how you're moving? It looks cool to have the G wagon or the Benz, and all those things. That looks cool. It probably is cool, but a lot of cats are lying with saying that they really want that because they don't really understand what that looks like. And I always encourage guys and ladies as well to explore what they really want. When I'm talking to a young person and they say, "Man, I want to be a singer. I'm like, well, break that down for me. Like, what do you want to sing? And we'll go a little bit deeper, and they'll say, I just want to sing on stage. I'm like, bet. So you would be cool uh, if you were a background singer, right? And then they're like, well, no, I don't think I'd be cool if I had to be a background singer. Like, even if it was for Beyonce, they like, even if it was for, you know, the biggest pop star in the world, nah, man. And they realize like they want to be a star. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't lie about how you want to look at your life. Don't lie about the lifestyle that's going to come with that. And then you can start to really assess what that life is going to look like. You can be honest with yourself about what that life is going to look like. When Dev Cola just said, it's not cool if you can't afford, that Lux or that foreign car, right? Um, so I want us to really think through the aspects of what it looks like when you're lying, right? When it looks like when you're lying in your life as well. So I was doing some research. Like I said, I've been very interested in the psychology, the philosophy of life. And so we're going to go through a few of these different elements, and then we'll talk about some of the consequences that come with that. So there is the concept of forms, right? Plato talks about the concept of forms um, in the essence of something's true nature, right? And then something's appearance. So, from a very logical or straightforward space that's easy for all of us to comprehend, you can have a a piece that is used for something very tactical, right? But its construction and the way that it's put together can make it seem like it's something else, right? But its function does not change. What do I mean? Well, if you're ever going into somebody's house, a lot of black folks will understand this, right? You can go into somebody's house if they, especially if they have a bigger house and they got two rooms. You got the family room, and then you got the sitting room. Or if you go to an affluent family, they got the family room, and then they got the sitting room over here, right? And that sitting room, you don't ever go in. It's like immaculate. It's the most beautiful things. Like I've seen several of them where they're just all white, right? The function of that space is to sit down, just sit your ass down, relax, converse. There's no TV in there. It's usually a beautiful window, outlook in the back or outlook in the front yard. It's just a beautiful experience, right? But nobody ever uses that because it's all for appearances, even though the essence is for you to sit your ass down and enjoy some conversation. Maybe enjoy some tea. Maybe enjoy a cigar, if you're so inclined. But ain't nobody gonna do that in there because they're not about to mess up the appearance of what that space is. And so a lot of times we will dress with the appearance of something that we are not really seeking to that we're not seeking to manifest or present in real life, right? Once the gift has to be undressed. So when I was starting to get dressed, well, even now, a lot of times when I would be out, I would talk to a young lady or whatnot, and I consider myself a pretty suave dude. I'm not necessarily the smoothest dude. I'm definitely not cool, but I'm a pretty suave dude. I got to get the gab a little bit, right? And I remember I was talking to an ex situationship, we'll say, right? And she was like, every time we talk, I've always envisioned you, at the house with a in front of a fireplace, sipping and swirling a nice cognac in the little glass because she didn't know how to say a snifter, like the little rounded glass in front of a fireplace, and just chill, right? And it would be this vibe. Now, at the time that I was talking to this young lady, I was in a 1 bedroom apartment or 2 bedroom apartment in the hood. Like it was no type of fireplace. She was like, and I know you're gonna be in a robe. And I had a robe, but it wasn't that. It wasn't what she was imagining, right? And so there was this appearance of what I was projecting, even though I knew it wasn't true. Now I was also quick to be like, no, that ain't it. That ain't it. That's not life, right? That's not real. But there was that presentation, right? So when you have this appearance, it is on you then to say, yo, that's, I know we call that the sitting room or the drawing room. We don't do no drawing, we don't do no sitting. This is the nice room, right? That's what one of my aunts used to call her room. Like, this is one of the nice rooms. We don't do anything here. It's just, this is for the look, right? So it's important for you to call truth to power for that, so that people have an understanding of what that is. Because it can cost you. Like, I had a friend who lived in LA, and he used to say, we're always looking for the cats who come in from out of town who are flashing cash. They got on all they shine. They will flaunt their money, because we know those are easy marks. We can hit those cats, and he wasn't in the street space, but like his people can hit those cats if they wanted to, and it ain't no issue, right? So they would have all the pretty girls going up to these dude sections in the club, talking to them, flirting with them, because the appearance was, I'm that dude. I'm cool. Like, you should be dealing with me. You should be talking to me because I'm flossing. I got it. But the reality of it was, the essence of this was like, you a fool. I don't really rock with you like that. You just a come up. You're just somebody that I can utilize and that I can use. And the truth on the other side is, that's not who that person is anyway. When I talk to a lot of these cats, they're cornballs. They're not even corny, they're cornballs. They're not true to who they are or what they really want to represent, right? So we have that aspect of the essence versus the appearance, right? And that's Plato's forms. Um, and that it's important for us to not forget the essence of who we are, even when we're putting on our ensembles. Because if we're inauthentic in that space, it could cost us a lot. It could even cost us our lives in certain situations, right? So as we begin to cultivate and develop that awareness of our appearance and our essence being aligned together, we also want to think about the will to power our presentation. And this comes from Friedrich Nietzsche, right? And so he was saying that our self is often a construct of our will to and for power, right? So we want, as men, especially, to look and to feel powerful. It's something that I talk to my clients all the time when we talk about the concept of being a king, a warrior, a lover, and magician. Two of those elements have power, have authority, have autonomy, have progression, and the assertiveness that is going to represent masculinity, right? So we want to have those spaces, but a lot of times we can allow that to mask who we are, to mask what we really want to have power over. And so then we're positioning ourselves to minimize somebody else so that we can be better. And this is just the essence of masculinity as we know it. Most men are competitive, right? When me and my homies used to go out to the club, like, we were early 20s, we would have competitions basically to see who was going to be the best dressed, right? And we didn't realize that that competition was masking our own insecurities. Like, there's nothing wrong with you saying, yo, I want to make sure I'm the best dressed dude in the spot, as long as it's not doing what Zev was talking about. It's not cool if you can't afford it. If you can't afford the time, if you can't afford the investment, if you can't afford the responsibility, right? The response to your abilities in that space. And so when we would step out, we would go and grab clothes from the thrift store. We would, go to the consignment shops to go get these new pieces. And that was cool. But in that time, I didn't have the money to really be investing and clothing like that. And to be honest with you, I didn't really need to. If I would have worn the same thing, the same jacket over and over, switching up the shirt, switching up the pants that I did have the access to, I still would have been one of the best dressed dudes in there in the spot, any spot that we went to, because I was being intentional about what I was wearing and how I was choosing to show up. But what I was trying to do a lot of times was mask my own insecurity. That can't be power if I'm trying to hide who I am and where I am in the situation. It's having this conversation of the true understanding that your power often is in the restriction, is in your lack of access, because it forces you to be that much more creative. I had a young guy who's doing extremely well now, and my pride and admiration of him doesn't mean anything. He well surpassed me thus far. But one of the things that I was very humbled and I appreciated was being able to watch his progression, because this guy started out initially with very few pieces of clothing, a little bit of items, and he had a homie who just had all the access to resources in the world. His parents would buy him things all the time. And so he came with a white shirt. This is at the time when Kanye was doing 808 and Heartbreaks. So he was selling that heart, the Lego shaped heart. Comes out one day, he's wearing that white shirt, with that pendant and a pair of jeans. Everything fits him well though. Now his homeboy is dressed to the nines, looks great. And I remember pulling my homeboy to the side and be like, yo, the young one who doesn't seem to have a lot got it. He was like, what you mean? I said, he has the ability to be stylish without having a lot of items. And he was actually my teacher, whether he knew it or not, in helping me really have the understanding of what true style is. Style is not about having a whole lot of things. It's not about you showing a whole lot. Style is about having the ultimate understanding of who you are and how you want to show up. And then being able to do that so consistently that nobody can deny who you are or what it is that you're representing. And so, as he's continued to progress and his wardrobe has expanded beyond, anything that he may have even imagined, I am reminded that he is the most powerful person that he can be, because he has an understanding and an acceptance of who he is and how he wants to show up. So he's no longer trying to mask, because at the time he was trying to navigate this feeling of insecurity on some level by not having all of the things, right? But now he has the awareness, and this started before he got the things, that he didn't have to put on this mask of, yo, I got it, even when I don't, even when I'm insecure, when I'm nervous, when I'm disoriented in this thing called life. I'm trying to figure it out. That was actually what gave him the power. That was the charging station to help him take a take a beat, to really observe his surroundings and to determine what he needed in order to be the best version of himself. And so, in that space, if we are willing to unveil the mask, right, and to unveil that real position of power, that's humility, that's introspection, that's authenticity, well, then we really have the opportunity to empower ourselves with the most authentic version of who we are in those spaces. So even if you only have a couple of pieces, right? But let's say you saved for them. Let's say you've been mindful about what it is that you're getting, why you're getting it, considering how you can wear it, the diversity in the pieces that you can pair with it that are accessible. Well, now you show up very, very differently, even if you're in the same piece. Like My wardrobe, as I've gotten older, has gotten smaller because I just enjoy wearing some of the same pieces. It's not even that I can't get access to more things. I just enjoy wearing a lot of the same things because I feel like they represent me. And that empowers me to assert myself in any given situation that I'm in because of how I'm showing up. So we have to remember that the lion style is not simply about dressing well, but it's about dressing in a way that suggests qualities that we truly do possess and not the things that we're trying to promote, even though we ain't got it, right? Even though we really can't afford it. So there is another concept by, and this is like I said, this is me exploring. So if I mispronounce the name or I am filling out the concept, I want you to understand this is me navigating this concept for the conversation with you as I continue to learn about it. And if you guys have any thoughts, questions, perspectives, remember this is not a lecture. This is a conversation. So I am accepting comments as you've seen. I will read them. I will respond to them. If you have anything to say there or have any questions about life and or style, I'm happy to provide the insights that I have here, right? So just remember saying the lecture. I always just have something to talk about just in case, right? So there's this other concept when people are lying with their look, and that's the concept of bad faith, right? The worst kind of lie that you can tell is a lie to yourself. Like I have no problem with somebody being delusional, right? In their beliefs and their convictions because they know what it is that they want to say to the world, right? I do believe that somebody can manifest their dream, somebody can manifest their vision for their life if they believe it. So they may be seeing something that other people just don't see. And that's okay, right? But I'm not okay with somebody stepping outside of their character to be something that they know that they are not for the purpose of helping um having somebody like make them feel like they're cool, right? Because that never serves anybody. That never benefits anybody. And it always makes you feel like you're doing something in bad faith, right? So in your style, you can have something that will keep you from the best version of yourself, right? Or it can keep you from your your best your best expression. And a lot of guys are happy about that because they're like, oh, it absolves me of really being accountable to who I am or what I say I'm about. So what I mean by that is there's guys out here, and I've been one of them. You may have been one of them, right? Who will say like, "Yeah, man, I got my joints from Zara, I got my joints from H&M," and then it's damaged, and they're like, "I mean, I don't care. It was from Zara. I only spent $40 on it." And I'm like, "Bro, why did you spend $40 on it if you didn't care about it?" And in truth, when we get down to it, part of that when we take deeper dives into a real understanding of yourself is you don't think that you deserve something high quality. Now you don't may not think that you deserve it because you don't know how to take care of it or you're unwilling to take care of it or the maintenance costs are going to be more than you anticipated or that you wanted to invest in, and so that catches you off guard. There is something interesting about seeing a guy walk into a custom clothing shop. We'll have a conversation. He'll talk about some of the stuff that he's looking for, and then when it's time to pull the trigger and make that investment, he gets scared. And now there's all of these elements of pushback instead of just saying like, "Yo, that was more than I anticipated having to spend, and so I need to regroup. I need to reassess um, where I actually am and what I'm really actually willing to invest." When I'm talking to guys just through life about how they want to show up in the world, whether it's losing weight, whether it is going after that young lady that they like, that job promotion that they like. I asked them, and I would ask you, how do you see yourself? Do you really see yourself being in that position? Do you really see yourself with that young lady? Do you really see yourself going after that vision that you claim that you have? Or is there something else that's drawing you? Right? You'll hear a lot of times guys say something like, man, that's a dope jacket. Man, that's a dope look you put together right there, man. I could never wear that. And I remember asking a guy like, well, why not? He was like, I just couldn't see myself as that. And that's why not only are we trying things on to see how they fit them, my mantra for the last close to a year has been, if you can, actually less than that, almost maybe only 6 months, has been, if you can see yourself, then you can be yourself. If you can see yourself doing that thing, then you can start to become that person. That's why you don't need to fake it till you make it if you're practicing it until you become it. Right. And there's a lot of guys who are more than happy to continue to fake it, but they can't see themselves as the person who is deserving of something high quality. These are the guys who are going to get the fake watches, trying to pass them off like they're real. They're going to get the fake items, trying to pass them off like they're real, right? But they're not being the true, authentic version of themselves. And so then they get mad when somebody calls them out on their bullshit. They get defensive, right? These are the guys who don't really want to have to deal with 8 women, 10 women. They don't really want the baddie chick that they think that they do, right? They just want somebody that they're extremely highly attracted to and that they can have a good conversation with. They don't want to be out in these streets all times of the night. That's not their jam. That's not their real life. But they think that that's what they have to promote in order to be that. So there's a denial of their authenticity, and that's really a self-destructive movement. It's a self-destructive position that you're putting yourself in, right? And so you don't end up, like I said, lying to the other people. You end up lying to yourself so much so that you don't even recognize the person that you're looking at when you step into the mirror. And that's the most dangerous position that you can put yourself in, because if you don't know where you are, if you don't know who you are, how do you get back to yourself? And that's the crazy thing, is guys think that, this is why I remind guys that style is way more than just clothes. I've seen guys put on this persona and they keep on building on this persona, and they think that at some point, whatever piece of clothing, whatever car that they're getting, whatever neighborhood that they're moving into, that somehow continuing to stack all the bullshit on top of one another is going to give them a release, and they're going to be fine, and they'll just get back to being their authentic self. And they don't realize that 95% of who they're being is because of what they're doing or what they are seeing a lot of times. There was this cat that I knew. He would always post, and I've told this story before, but he would always post like the mansion with the Bugatti in front of it, the Ferrari, like on his social media, like, yeah, I'm gonna have this one day. And we was having a conversation. I don't remember what we were having a conversation about, but he was like, yo, bro, in truth, I don't want none of that. I don't care about any of that. I just want to have a home with the mother of my children, who I love to marry, and my baby. Right. And I said, bro, why the fuck are you promoting all this other stuff then? And he was like, well, that's what the people want. And how many of us are showing up and are presenting ourselves for other people? I'm not talking about being mindful of other people or the spaces that we're in. I'm talking about the cats who are literally trying to be something for somebody else. Not for the people who care about us, not for the people that we genuinely have connections with. We will bypass all those other people so that we can do it for the gram, even though nobody says that anymore, right? Or we can be recognized on social media, or we can go viral, right? I got a homie who says, "Not me." I'll listen. If it's not you, awesome. I've been there. I've seen other people go there, but a lot of people don't know who they are because they haven't really taken the chance to look at themselves, to see themselves as they want to be. And so you put yourself in a space of bad faith because you're denying your authenticity, right? So from there, we often will look at life as a performance. You know that I view life as a performance. So there are different types of performances that we can put into play, right? So we got the one hand, because I told you that all the world's a stage and everybody in it, Shakespeare said this, that all the world's a stage and everybody in it is merely players. We're merely actors, right? We each have our entrances and we each have our exits. So we know that on some level this is a game, this is theatrics, this is a play, right? But the best actors, the best movies, the best stories are the most authentic ones. These are the ones where we see cats really embodying a role. Who's your favorite Joker, right? I want you to think about who your favorite Joker is. If I'm asking most of these people, I got an idea of who they're going to tell me their favorite Joker is. Who is your favorite Joker, right? If I'm asking the average person, they're going to say Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger's iconic role as the Joker in Batman, when Batman Begins, which whatever Batman it was, I don't remember which Batman it was. And I should know which Batman it is because it's the one that everybody speaks about, right? But his most iconic role. The second one for a lot of people is Joaquin Phoenix, right? Because he embodied that role for Joker. The first one I heard part two was trash, but the first one when he is showing his demise and his dissension into madness, right? We believe that there's authenticity there. But when we are trying to perform, we're trying to put on airs for a role that we weren't meant to play, we do ourselves a disservice. And it always plays as a bad act, right? Have you ever seen any one of those movies that you're like, why the hell did they cast that person? He just that wasn't a good casting choice. He's not good for the role. He wasn't right for that role. Have you ever seen those castings? I know I have several times, right? The Dark Knight, Will P, thank you. Uh right. I've been in those situations where I'm looking at like, why why did you get cast for this? And then there's those roles where you like, yo, he was meant to play this. Think Jamie Foxx and Ray. Think um you can think Muhammad Ali, honestly, for with Will Smith. We just finished watching The Penguin, right, on HBO. Colin Farrell killed that role. Killed that role, right? They chose the right one with him. And it's because he was able to embody what he wanted to represent. And the same thing is true when it comes to our personal style. Do you know how much fucking money you would save if you just would be yourself? If you would just play your role, knowing that you're supposed to be the star of your story, you're supposed to be the star of this presentation, you're supposed to be the star of this chapter in your life. If you just played that role and dressed accordingly as the lead of that story, how bomb your role would be. But some of you guys are playing the the background. Some of you guys are playing you know, you're not even in the cast, you're extra because you're choosing to not be the star of your own show. Dave Chappelle made a great analogy in that every person is supposed to be the star of their own show, but they may be a star in somebody else's story, somebody else's show at some other point, right? He talks about going to the club, right, or going to a comedy store, the comedy store or some comedy show. Everybody's paying attention to him. He's that dude, right? And so he goes out later that night to a club, and people are paying attention to him because they recognize that that's Dave Chappelle. But then this other dude notices Dave Chappelle and then starts buying these bottles, right? So now people are starting to pay attention to him, and he's like, "Yo, Buddy may have thought that I was in his story. Like they're gonna be like, yeah, you know, Dave Chappelle came to the club. I was buying crazy bottles, right? And so I am a character in his story. But in truth, now Dave didn't say this, but from my perspective, he ends up being the character in Dave's story because he makes a great story and a great point because of that guy who's buying up all the bottles, right? Will P91 said, I definitely saved money on an outfit, my school's alumni party, because I already had pieces in my closet. Yeah, 100%. So once you start to play your role even deeper than just having you saving money, you save time, you save energy, you save effort, you save expression for people to get the essence of who you are and what it is that you really want to represent. There's nothing better, honestly, than a guy who has the qualitative items and he always looks immaculate in them, that gets those little touches or pieces of acquisition in their attire that has you saying, damn, that shit was nice. Man, that was dope. And it's always like a subtle tweak for something that he may have just gotten the day before, the week before, but it fits so perfectly in the rest of his ensembles and in his closet that he always looks like he just owns clothes. My mentor used to tell me, real men of style don't buy clothes, they own them, right? There's guys that I know that have had things 15, 20, 30, 40 years, and they'll pull it out. You be like, God damn, where you get that from? And they be like, man, I've been had this. That's when they hit you with that, man, I've been had this, right? And it's made with such quality, it's made with such attention to their body, their physique, how they move, how they show up, that it is something that is undeniable, right? They're putting on the performance of their lives because they know how to present themselves. They know the role that they're supposed to play, right? And so, if you know me, some of you guys are getting to know me on these conversations, then you know that my interest has been the King Warrior Level Magician principle, but also Union side psychology, right? So we're going to end with the shadow that Jung often talks about, because a lot of us, when it comes to all those other things, why we're doing the things that we're doing, why we're lying, why we're trying to be deceptive in our dress, who we're trying to impress, the inconsistency and incongruency of what we're showing up is often a representation of our shadow self. And for you guys who don't know what the shadow self is, it's the thing that we are trying to deny or repress out of shame, out of fear, um, or because we don't want people to think that we are flawed, especially in this modern day society of Instagram perfection, touch ups, filters, and AI in interactions now for deep fakes, or the ability to cover up things with special effect type makeup, right? We don't want people to know that we are aging. We don't want people to know that our health may be in jeopardy or we are trying to navigate our health. We don't want people to know that we are having challenges. I don't believe that anybody struggles. I think that we strength train if we choose to change our perspective. But a lot of times we don't want to have those conversations. We don't want to project those things because we don't want to look weak, inferior, or like we are less than. right? I strength train and find challenges with that as well. But those shadows, if we are willing to navigate those aspects of our shadows in ourselves, we find that those are some of the most enlightening periods of who we are and what we want to experience, right? Because that shadow will actually show the totality of who we are. It shows the fullness and the roundness of who we are and how we want to show up. And so the person who's willing to accept that shadow side of who he is, he starts to manifest a different experience for people. Something that shows intrigue. When you can be the Dark Knight. There's a concept in literature and in storytelling called, the anti-hero. And that's the Batman. Those are the Batmans of the world. The guy who is just a little, he has been the hero long enough, to become the villain, as he says, I believe in the Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises. And so there is not all goodness, and we hear Jordan Peterson talk about this. I think we hear David Goggins talk about this. That you have to become a monster, right? You have to become a seducer. You have to become and embrace these elements of your sinister side. Not evil, but that other side that can be tyrannical, that can be dictatorial in how he moves, that can be obsessive. Now, here's the interesting thing: you can be tyrannical with somebody else, or you can be tyrannical with your dreams and your refusal to settle for anything less than your best. You can be seductive in the conversations and the exchanges that you have while focusing your attention on the person that you genuinely want to seduce. And if any of you guys have read The Art of Seduction, I didn't just read it, I studied it. I reread that book, I think, 4 times, right? Listened to it on Audible 3 times because there's an understanding of how you need to maneuver in those situations. And if you have studied The Art of Seduction, then you know that to truly seduce somebody does not allow for you to do so over a wide range of individuals, a plethora of young ladies. To seduce somebody requires so much attention and intention that you step into the spirit, the soul of that individual, so that you can help them experience emotion, help them experience life and their experience of said exchange that they're going to have with you, right? And so, even when it comes to our style, there is a need to embrace the tonality, the emotion, the textures of what it is that we are presenting so that people do not see, they don't just see, they feel, they experience, they engage, they find themselves enwrapped in how we are presenting ourselves for that gift that they're going to unwrap eventually. It's in the shadows that we find enlightenment a lot of times. It's in the shadows that we are forced to pay more attention to everything around us, that everything is heightened and we feel that heartbeat. And that is often when we feel the most alive. So, from a stylistic standpoint, embracing the shadow is taking a risk stylistically, and it doesn't have to be a loud risk. Sometimes it's just you choosing to throw on a different pocket square that has a pop of color, to throw on a tie when nobody else is wearing them, to have some fun with your socks, to be able to position your finish on the styling of a shoe, or wearing shoes that most guys wouldn't wear because of the way that they are composed. I had a guy ask me today about opera pumps. And like he's the third guy I think who's asked me about opera pumps, or who started talking about opera pumps. My man Vlad. Vladimir Richey has also talked about him with Chase Ryder about how he's interested in those now. And I think that that is because there's this element of wanting to be a risk taker, to be different, right? And that's perfectly fine as long as you are not doing so at the cost of your authenticity, at the cost of who you are. There are guys who want to elicit this discomfort, not because they are trying to be dismissive or oppressive of anybody else, but because it forces and provokes elevation. When my friend and I, who I told you about earlier, would step out and we would go to the club. It was three of us. It was me and my homeboy who knew how to dress well, and there was another homie. And my homie didn't really care about style, so he said, right? And he was a good dude, great people, great personality, great character, but he just didn't care about clothes. So he thought. It wasn't until the fourth or fifth time that we went out, and again, this wasn't competitive with him because he didn't care, that he started to realize the attention, the exchange, the moves that we were able to make based off of our appearance in the most authentic way, that he started to seek out who he could be because he was uncomfortable, maybe even a little envious of who we were and how we were showing up in those spaces. He wanted what we had, not in a disparaging way or in a toxic way, but just in I can do this, or I can garner access. And because of that, he started to cultivate and create his own style. So it is in facing our shadows that we find the totality of ourselves, and that we really can start showing up in these unique ways. Again, Maya Angelou said, people may not remember what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And if you can elicit and create the feelings, then you don't ever have to lie about who you are, because the authenticity will allow people to paint their own pictures as you star in your own story. So I want you to try this on, see how it fits you. And if it fits you well, I would challenge you to step out as the most authentic version of yourself today, this week, this upcoming year, and to not allow yourself or your look to be deceptive when it could be seductive, to not allow yourself to disempower who you are when you could be performing at the star level that you were supposed to be, to not allow yourself to throw an appearance out that is not going to be the essence of who you truly are. And don't forget, you can do that at every state and station that you find yourself in. Maybe you don't have a lot of money right now. That's okay. That doesn't mean that you get to get some bullshit, because you can make that excuse. I don't have a lot of money right now, so I just went and got the 3 or 400, dollar suits at Men's Warehouse. That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. Instead of you saying, "Hey, I only got $400. I may only be able to get this one suit, but now I have to be strategic. I have to be thoughtful. I have to be intentional and ask myself, is this really a representation of me? Does it even make sense for me to go out and get a suit if I'm not really wearing it? Would I benefit more from getting a great sport coat and or blazer that is going to be true to who I am, a great pair of trousers that I know I can wear with my jeans, take a few shirts to the tailor shop, and boom, that $400 is now extended itself to being utilized in the most authentic version of where you are right now for this chapter in your life. Or maybe you have the resources and you are unwilling to be true to who you are and to invest in the things that are not the most prominent, but are much more qualitative. That leather jacket that you know you should get that doesn't have any designer name on it, but it is a qualitative goat leather, or a qualitative kangaroo, or it may even be a heavier bison jacket. I saw one recently. It was all right. It was dope, right? That is put together and will have some staying power. You're unwilling to make that investment because it's not the quote unquote cool thing. Or maybe you just need to go get a camel hair top coat for the fall winter because you live up north and that's understated and you think people aren't gonna care, but you don't realize how versatile that item is. And you don't want to look like the stuffy or corny dude. But I'm telling you, those people who have that awareness of self and who can be authentic with it, they kill it every time. There's a guy I really admire, my man Dre. He will the first time I met him, he was with his son. Dre's like 55, probably almost 60. He came with his son. He had on camel hair top coat. This was like a 50-degree day. He had on this beautiful gray cable knit sweater and a pair of selvage jeans with some nice Chelsea boots on. And I was like, and he's a good looking dude, no homo, right? He's a good looking guy. And I was like, God damn, fam is fly. He walked into the shop and I was like, I want to work with him. He's a man of good taste. He's a man of quality. I know he's gonna help promote me just by showing up when he steps out. Now, Dre is dope. Dre don't like to spend a lot of money, but he likes to invest in quality pieces. And Dre is honest about how he wants to show up, and so he always looks amazing because he's true to who he is. There's no need for him to lie about what he's wearing. So when he has on the designer shit, he'll say, "Yeah, man, it's the designer shit," but he's quick to tell you, "Yo, I got this at a consignment shop. Man, you'll never know how much. You'll never believe how much money I saved on this." Right? Or he'll wear something, and you're like, "Damn, that joint is fly. Like, where you get those? Who is that?" And some guys you may or may not have ever heard of, like the average guy has. And so there is intrigue that happens when you are willing to be authentic, even if you deem it conservative. In a space where everybody's trying to be loud, it is often the guy who is the most subtle that draws the right type of attention, right? That's when the young ladies are paying attention to you because of your intention. Subtle, intentional, and dynamic. So once you try it on, see how it fits you. I didn't see any questions, no questions, no questions, no questions. All right, listen, if you don't have any questions, all good. If you happen to have any questions later on, don't forget that you can hit me up on IG at Style Architects, ARCHITEXTS, if you're watching me on any other platform. Or um, if you're watching me on IG, you can hit me up there. Outside of that, be great today. But then again, you already are. So now all you have to do is step out and have to remember. Uh, I did have a question. Did you shave the goat? The goat, the goatee? Yes, I shaved my goatee because my goatee was inauthentic. It was like or off here this way. I think it was like something like this, and I was like, I gotta go. I gotta get that straight. So it'll be about like 6 to 8 months because it takes forever for my goatee to grow back. Um, but so if there's no other questions, then don't ever forget that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of very nice looks mature. Thank you. Don't ever forget that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind. So yes, you should always dress to address your life and your style. And stop lying. See you next week. Peace.